Well, hi guys, it's Dr. Drake 63 here, and welcome to my workshop. Today we're going to look at doing a trigger adjustment on this Winchester Model 70. This is that pre-64 that we did a video about yesterday, and yeah, she's still looking beautiful. I suppose if she made it from 1959 to now, that a day in my hands won't booger it up too much. But one of the things I did notice is that this trigger was very stiff, and they're kind of notorious for that unless you adjust them. We're going to take a look at that. We've got ourselves this trigger gauge, and this particular model of trigger gauge is you can pick these up for about 25 bucks. You can get a digital version of it for twice as much, still using a spring, and it just gives you a digital readout instead. But for my purposes, that's just something that's not worth the extra. Anyway, just a couple things to mention. We're going to be taking this down, and we've got basically 3 screws that we need to deal with here. And it took me a while before I finally got around to buying a set of bits, or you can get screwdrivers as well, that are meant specifically for guns. And these are what are called hollow ground. They have a very, very flat profile, and they fit into the screws much more perfectly than a regular screwdriver blade will. Okay, I don't know how well you can see that, but if you don't like boogering up your screws, especially on these older guns, that's the way to go. I strongly encourage guys to do that. So remember, if you go out and spend a couple bucks, I think this particular set, yeah, it was less than 50 bucks. I'd like to have the long-handled set, but to have that many long-handled gunsmithing screwdrivers, I need to establish some room somewhere, and that gets kind of hard to do over time. Anyway, let's take a look at the pull here. Okay, in order to test your pull weight, got a couple things going on. What's going to happen is this spring is going to come out to the last release point, and then you can measure your weight in pounds and a little bit of ounces. I had speculated, I thought this was at first about 4 pounds, and after shooting it said I thought it was north of 5. Let's see what it is. First thing you need to do is obviously cycle the firearm. I did make sure it wasn't loaded. So very gently, and if you look at right here, you're going to see that this is at about 5.5 pounds. Okay, I don't know how well that comes through. So let's try that again. Let's see if that's consistent, because the other thing is I am pulling it at a little bit of an angle. So when we take the stock off, we're going to be able to get a little bit better idea what that looks like. Just go slow. And that's pretty consistently there at about 5.5 pounds. So that's about 2 or 2.5 pounds more than I want it. So we've got a little work to do. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do is take this bolt out. Set that aside. You notice I've got the scope covers on. Then I've actually got 3 different screws I need to take out. One of them's here. One of them's here behind the trigger guard, and then underneath this trap door we're going to see another one. One of the things I've noticed with these springs on this, like this trap door spring and so forth, this has definitely been stiff for a while. So we're going to put some break free in there. The other thing, and I don't know if you can notice it too well, but if you look at these screws, you'll see that they're a bit boogered up. So whoever last had this apart did not use gunsmithing screwdrivers. So shame on them. But I want to get this off as quick as I can, and then we can go about the other work. To start, I'm just going to get them loosened up a little bit. Goodness. Yeah, it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. I think we're gonna probably see some areas where there may be some rust to clear up. We'll see. One of the things we're going to want to do after we get these screws out is remember which one goes where. So I've got those two, and now we're going to take this one in the front, which is another one of the ones that goes in the receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one all the way out. And because I know this is the front one, I'm going to set it down right to the left, out of harm's way. But I like to lay these down out of the way and put them in the order that they go in terms of right to left, left to right. Now, so here I've taken out the trigger guard, popped right out. This trap door comes right out of here, a slot in the stock here. I think what we have is just a snug fit, basically. Well. So I was really wanting to make sure I'm not beating on something, pulling on something I don't know about. You guys know how that goes. So I kind of worked it a little bit with a rubber mallet, just kind of tapping it in some different spots, and was able to pull this apart just like that. And the issue is it just hasn't been apart for a long time. It's a little bit humid here today. A couple things just to notice right here. This is a metallic trigger, and this base plate is also metallic. You can tell it's heavy, and the markings and so forth. It's not aluminum or any of that kind of stuff. And that comes out at 6 pounds right there. So yeah, that's quite a bit more than we want. Okay, so here's the name of the game right here. If you look right here, you see this spring. And this spring is basically the more that it's compressed, the more force you're going to get when you pull back on this trigger right here. Okay, so the travel's not going to change. It's just how much force do you need to pull back, and the more compressed the spring is, the more force it is. So the name of the game for me is going to be to loosen this nut. I'm at the same time need to loosen both of these guys up so that this screw right here, you can see the thread, so that I can allow for this spring to basically get longer. That's really what we're trying to do here. I just want this to get longer so that when you pull back, there's not as much compression going on. So both of these nuts need to be loosened, and that takes a 1/4 inch open end wrench. And let's see what we can do. Now, I've got this spring extended as far as I can at this point because this is the position the trigger needs to be in. Okay, so I've got these nuts, both of them, back down as far as I can. So I've only knocked about 1 pound off of that pull, which I was hoping to get more, but I think in order to do that, I need basically get a different spring, which I know they're available, so I might look into that. I also could simply cut some of the coil off, but I really don't like doing that kind of stuff on a trigger spring. I mean, it's fitted a certain way for a reason, and the ends and so forth need to be what they need to be. So, you know, slight improvement on this, but we definitely need to look at getting a different spring, probably something with less tension to begin with, in order to make this work. Okay, we were hoping to get somewhere in the neighborhood of a 3.5 pound pull, maybe 4. And I don't think the spring as we demonstrated, is going to allow that. But let's see what we were able to do today, besides learn how to do it. That's 4.5 right there. It's upside down, but okay. So we did take about a pound, a little bit more than a pound off of this. Let's see if that's something we can do consistently. Pretty consistently. I think a lot of it has to do with the angle at which I'm pulling this thing too. And of course, if you grab here as opposed to on the very tip, you're going to get a different reading as well. So 4.5 pounds. So we'll see whether or not we're going to get a different spring for this. It does feel a little bit lighter. You know, I guess it feels about a pound and a half lighter. But anyway, I do appreciate you watching. Hope you, along with me, got some ideas about this particular old gun. I think it's got a lot of potential, and we just need to work with it. I know there are kits you can get or just lighter springs. I really think that really all this one needs is a lighter spring. I don't really plan on getting into polishing this here too much or anything. At least not at this point. Let's live with it as it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Dr. Drake 63 saying so long and happy hunting, guys. That time of year is creeping up.